Hello everyone. So just a couple of slides really. So we've got a few late arrivals. Okay. So we're going to cover just a brief overview there. What we're going to cover today. Louise is going to talk about delivery scheduling to start with, which is where ePOD begins, and then Nick's going to do most of the work this afternoon. He's going to talk about rules around ePOD. We're going to show you WeMo, which is where's my order information, where you can keep your customer updated on the status of deliveries, and also show you ePOD in anger. And then, as Nick said at the end, you're all muted at the moment, so we'll unmute you at the end. So if you could hold on to your questions to the end, and we'll cover those off. As I say, we've got about an hour set aside for a little bit longer. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so just a brief introduction. So we developed ePOD as a PWA. PWA stands for Progressive Web App. You don't really need to know what that means, but it's it's a modern setup. It's works offline. It's responsive. It's very secure. It's designed to be very quick. It's very up-to-date technology. It links real time with Counteract, which we'll demonstrate as we go through, but gives you much better service to your staff and the company, as well as your customers. We talk about ePOD, but it actually the app supports all delivery documentation, and we'll talk about that as part of the demo. We mentioned WeMo, which is one of the really big benefits of the system. Updating status real time for your customers, so hopefully we'll cut down the inevitable calls you get saying from customers, when am I due to get my delivery? It also, the system is a cut above, again, just going out with paperwork. It will improve obviously reduce the amount of paperwork you have. Also improves the accuracy of your deliveries. The system uses Google Maps and What3 Words as well, and we'll talk about that. It's flexibly licensed. It's licensed per vehicle, and we also offer a free trial as well, because we think we want everybody to have a go with it, and you can trial it on both your test system and your live system to give it a really good go before you decide whether you want to commit to using it. And it's a core part of Counteract, even though it is a separate application. So we will continue to develop and improve it, and based on feedback from users. So part of today is to show you how it works, and we're obviously very keen for people to use it and try and feedback, and so we can improve this as we go along. Okay, that's enough of me. I'm going to hand over to Louise, who's going to take you through delivery scheduling.
Okay, so I'm going to run through the basics of how delivery scheduling works, because if you're using ePOD, then delivery scheduling and ePOD all link together seamlessly. It is worth saying, though, that you can use delivery scheduling even if you're not using ePOD. It's completely standalone, and it'll still give you a load of benefits in that it'll give you a better level of control on your deliveries. It'll give you a good solid audit trail, and it will give you visibility on what's being scheduled. So even if you decide not to use ePOD, delivery scheduling is still there for you. So all of the delivery scheduling functionality is found in this menu here, which is in your sales order processing menu. And when you're in that submenu, these are the functions that you have available to you. So when you plan your delivery schedule, you'll be using this function here. So this is where you would plan your delivery schedule. When you first come to use it, you need to do a little bit of setup, because you need to tell Counteract what vehicles you're wanting to schedule onto, the drivers, the trips for those vehicles. And so these functions here are the functions which we would use. I'm going to click somebody else in. Somebody else has just arrived. There we go. These functions there, they're the functions that we've used to set up delivery scheduling to start with. It doesn't take very long. It's a little bit of setup. I'm not going to cover it now. We've got a webinar that goes through it in detail and gives you all of the different options and reasons for why and how you'd set things up. And if you come to use ePOD and you want some help with it, we'll obviously help you set it up at that point in time. What I'm going to do is just go straight in to plan my delivery schedule. So first of all, I'm choosing where do I want to plan my delivery schedule and what date. So I can choose which branch I'd like to plan it at, or a number of branches if I want to see all of the trips and vehicles at a number of branches at the same time. And I could pick the start date for my planning. So I'll just leave it on the defaults, come down here. So I'm planning for my vehicles at the Monmouth branch. And we call this the summary schedule. And basically what's going on here is it's trying to look like the sort of whiteboard transport schedule that you might get in a transport office. And so along the top, we've got days, and down the side, we've got all of the vehicles that we've set up on the system for this branch, along with the typical number of trips that they'll do in a day. Okay. And then you can see here that when you've got something scheduled for a particular day and a particular trip, you can see that you've got information in the little square that represents that date and trip. And I can see I've got one drop in there and I've got the total weight. Over here, I've got 2 drops, and that's the total weight of my 2 drops. And then also here you can see that I can mark out time on my delivery schedule for when my vehicles are not available for things like services and MOTs. So just to get straight into it, how do you schedule your trips? Schedule your drops, sorry. So on the top row, you can see this row is labeled unscheduled. So for any particular day, the transactions that I need to schedule are automatically put straight in there from Counteract. So if I double click on that, I come through to this screen and I can see in here all of the different transactions scheduled for delivery, or in this case, collection today, because you can set your system up to not only look after your deliveries to customers, but your collections from suppliers, your collections from customer sites if there are returns coming back. And there are control file settings which you can set up, or we could set up for you, which determine what kind of documents come in here. So each row represents a particular delivery that needs to happen, and you can see the sort of information that's on that first screen. I've got the customer or the supplier addresses, and if I go across, I can see weights in the next column, and then going across a bit further, I can see the first and second products on the document. I can see if there are special instructions. So that's my first look at things. Another way in which I might want to look at things is if I've got something highlighted and I click on my quick view button down here, then the window that opens on the top shows me the items that are on that particular document. And if I use the up and down arrows on my keyboard, so I'm going to press the down arrow first, I'm going down and I'm on the next, that's a purchase order that's due for collection. I'm coming down, say I'm on where the little dots are here. These are the items that's on that document. So I can quickly look in and out of them and see the different items that are on those documents really quickly. So that's looking around within that screen. There are more functions in here. I'm going to leave those for this moment in time until Nick does his demo of ePOD and Wemo in a second, because a lot of the other functions are related to that. I'm just going to go and schedule something. So if I wanted, for example, to schedule this this customer order onto a particular trip, I'll highlight it and I'll click on reschedule. And then if I say change vehicle and trip, I can come here and I can pick up the different vehicles that I've got set up on my board. So I'll pick that one up and I can choose here which trip I'd like it to be scheduled onto. So I'll just put it on that trip and I'll leave it for today. I could put it on a different date if I wanted to and schedule it in the future. If I hit apply, that's now gone onto that vehicle and that trip. So I'll hit OK here and show you there it is on that trip there. I can do more than one at a time. And if I come in here, I could pick one there and I could pick another. I can hold down control and just select numerous documents by holding control and then reschedule them all in one go. So I'll go change vehicle trip. Now I'll put those all on the same trip together. Okay, so I'm just getting a warning there because when I set my vehicle up, it's told me the maximum load. So I can now see I've got too much on that one. I'm going to keep going though. So I've got 3 trips on there, 3 drops, sorry, on that trip. If I double click on there, I can now come in and I can see those drops on that trip. and they might be in the wrong order, for example. So I've got functionality down here to move them around and put them in the right order. So perhaps that one needs to be delivered first. So I'll highlight it and I'll move it up, or I can move it to the top. You see, I'll move it down, at the end I'll move that one up. So I can reorder them in that way. I can use quick view on them, just the same as I did before. I can scroll across and I can still see all of the information on the row that I could before. If I double click on them, and I could also do this in the previous screen, if I double click on them, I can go in and I can see display customer order. So I've got, and that's the usual display customer order that you see when you're on the counter, for example. And the other thing that I can do from within here is I can recall the customer order. So if there's something about that customer order I need to change, I can recall it from within here. It's subject to your salesman authorities, so you'd have to, any changes I make are subject to my usual salesman authorities, but I can come in here and that customer order is now open for me to change, do anything to, just as I could if I'd record it on the counter. I'm going to close that down and I won't save anything. Okay. Once I've got my trip as it needs to be, with the drops all in the right order, then from within here, I can also raise all of my delivery notes in one go. So if I click that button, then these customer orders would all be turned into either advice notes or cash invoices, depending on what is the most appropriate document, the correct document for those things to be turned into. And I can just release them all in one go from in here. And I'm not going to do that because it's going to take a while for them to release. They will come out the printer and Nick's going to demo it in a second anyway. But I can do that from within here. So that's the real basics. Sorry, I shut that down there. That's the real basics of how your overall planning summary is meant to work and how individual drops can be scheduled and organised within that summary.
So Louise has done that delivery scheduling. I'm just going to talk about some of the rules around ePOD and then go into ePOD and show you ePOD. So I thought we'd start with talking about some of the rules that you can set up with ePOD. So if I go into System Maintenance, General Administration and System Rules. So we've obviously got the delivery notifications and order acknowledgement rules that have been in the system for a couple of issues now. So order acknowledgements, when you set up a customer order, you can have a copy of the order being sent to the customer's email address. So we've got a rule that says it's for all company, all branches, for any customer type, it's just going to send a priced customer order. You can have that per branch. It can be different per branch. You can have them unpriced. You don't have to attach a PDF copy. And you can set rules on the individual customer to say that you don't want them to send, or you want a particular email address to go to. That's covered in other sessions, but I just wanted to cover that just really briefly in here. And you have the same information against delivery notifications. Again, when a delivery notice is raised, you can then have the copy of the delivery note going across, and they can be separate email addresses per customer if you've set that up. Again, I think there's already a webinar or certainly a YouTube video on the channel if you want to look at those in more detail. So I want to talk about ePOD rules really quickly. So if I go into the ePOD rules, so again, you can have this per branch. We've just set ours up for the Monmouth branch here. But so the ePOD rules are just what happens if I choose, let's go for a credit customer there. So customer delivery, so it's credit customer. What happens if it's successful? So if I drill down into that, I could confirm the delivery notes. The customer's accepted, they've signed for it, they're happy. You can confirm the delivery notes on the back of that. You don't want to go manually confirm that. You could have, as Louise was saying earlier on, you can have collections from suppliers returned to suppliers. So let's say if I had an unsuccessful collection from a supplier, what do I want to do to that? Well, I could send an email to the buyer to say that it wasn't successful, or I could set individual users to get a notification that wasn't successful. So that's just a little overview on the rules that you can have around ePOD and some of the actions that take place on the back of that. There is also an ePOD customer notifications option within here. So if I just drill down into that. So this is about letting your individual customer know that their delivery has been picked, it's been loaded, it's the next drop, it's now been delivered, and you can have that by email or text message or both. You have to sign up to a text anywhere service, but again, support can help you set that up if that's something that you want to look at. For example, if I go picked, and I'll show you how this works in a second. So I've got an email going out when it's changed to a status of picked. It has been picked and packed. It has your text that you want to put in there, so you can customize the subject, you can customize the text that go in there. It does also put in a link to your Wemo page, and again, we'll look at that in a second. So what that enables you to do, so you can have these on different statuses. So we've got picked, loaded, next drop, collected, delivered. So collected isn't enabled actually, but delivered is enabled. So it's just about communicating more with your customer and getting that communication happening automatically. It's not waiting for you to do anything on that. So if I go back and show you what I mean. So if I go into delivery scheduling, and first of all, I'm just going to schedule some things onto the vehicle that I've got set up. So let's just have a quick look at some of these orders just to make sure there's some good stuff on there. Okay, let's go with that one, and that one, and that one. So let's reschedule those. So let's pop these on to a vehicle that I've got ePOD set up for. So let's pop them on trip 2 because we've been playing with trip 1 this morning. Again, as Louise said, it's telling me I'm over my maximum load. That's the setting that you set up against the vehicle, and then you've got weights against your products. It can just alert you that you're overloading your vehicles. And I just wanted to have a look for that's on that one. Let's do that one as well. Pop that one on that vehicle as well. For number 2. Save that. So you can now see that I've got four drops scheduled in trip 2 for this vehicle for today. So that's with this red box. So I think the first thing just to say is it's showing us red because these are all customer orders at the moment, and it highlights them in red because you can't deliver on a customer order. So it's just going, hang on a minute, I've got an issue here. So we've got to go. So as Louise said, the first thing that we'd want to do is just change those into delivery notes. So I'm going to raise delivery notes for those. So I'm just going to click raise delivery notes on the bottom. Change the sequence and didn't save it, so I'll just save that. So I'm just going to raise those as delivery notes. So then asking me if I want to send a delivery notice. So it's going to send delivery notifications to these. It's asking me if I want to put additional text in there. I'm not, I'm just going to ignore that. So let's change all those to deliveries. So if I just come out of here, you can now see that a red box has disappeared. It's now changed those. So if I drill down into there, you can see there are advice notes or sales invoices, depending on the type of transaction that we're doing. So I now want to say to this Mr. John Demo customer that we've now picked his delivery. So if I just change the status to be picked and apply that, and actually save myself a little bit of time, I'm going to change the next one to be loaded and apply that. And I'm going to save that. Let's just go again. So that's changed the status on there. So you can see now it's got an orange color to tell me that I've got mixed load. There's a key down to the colors down here at the bottom. So it's a mixed load because I've now got one with the status of picked and one with the status of loaded. If I go into my emails up here, you can now see I had 2 notifications. One said it's been picked and ready to go, picked and packed, and one said it's been loaded. Doesn't really matter which one I click on. Let's click on that loaded one. So then it's brought through that text that we'd set up in that ePOD customer notifications. And it included your Wemo link. So this is the link that your customer can click on. So I click on that. What it does is takes me to a Wemo page to say, this is my order. It's been received. We've now scheduled it because we confirmed it into an advice note. It's telling me this is the next drop because it's the second drop on the trip, and that status changes as we move through. It's got all my customer information. It's got Google Maps showing the address that we're going to. So let's go and just quickly look.
And Nick, that page is
Yeah.
So that's unique to that customer. That the customers, your customer is the only one that's going to get that link to that
Correct.
particular page.
Correct.
And will it always look like that for the customer?
So it changes slightly. So obviously, as it goes through the statuses, it'll be updated.
But in terms of the colouring and all that sort of stuff, will that be the same?
So this is branded to individual customers. So obviously, because this is our demo site, it's got our colours and our branding with it. But yeah, this will be themed to go in with your logos and your customer your colours and things. So let's just go back to my emails, and I'll just have a quick look at this picked one as well. So you can see this has got a status of picked on it. I can click on the map. There's a Google map there. I can click on that. It takes me to Google Maps. Obviously, there's a what three words as well, so I can click on that and zoom out, and that's the office here in Monmouth. So it's just showing you that information's there. And again, this is available in the app for the driver, but this is really information that you're sending to your customer.
And you don't have to do necessarily, if you don't want to do picked and loaded, you could just go straight to loaded, couldn't you? If you want to update
absolutely. You don't have to go through that sequence. You don't have to use those at all. You could just use Wemo to say that it's a POD at the end of the ticket, but we're just showing you that option is there. Okay, so now I'm going to drop onto the app as if I was the delivery driver. I'm going to log into the app. I'll show you on a desktop version, and then I'll show you in mobile format. And I'll just go through as if I was the driver delivering these and looking at the different statuses that you can have within Wemo and within ePOD, and then we'll keep coming back and checking that Wemo page and showing you how that links into delivery scheduling as well. So if I come back into here, so I've logged in as driver just to save myself a little bit of time. I just refresh the screen. So I've logged in, so I've got this on my handheld device or my tablet or my mobile phone, however you want to use it. And I'm on this vehicle, so it's telling me the vehicle I'm on. It's telling me it's trip 2 because I have done trip 1 this morning. So I can still go and look at completed jobs if I wanted to. But I'm going to view that trip. So if I press view trip, I can then see I've got these deliveries to make. So again, a little bit like the Wemo page, it's bringing up the map and the what three words. It's giving me my information for the sort of top level for the driver to go and look at these items. So the first one I do, I'll choose this trip number 1. As soon as I click into that or press into that with my finger, it's come into the delivery. It's telling me where I'm going to, any special instructions, which there aren't on this one. It's telling me the items that I'm delivering, and then it's giving me 3 choices. I can complete the delivery, I can partially deliver it. So if we get to site and the customer doesn't want them all for some reason, or there's some damage to them, he wants to send them back. Or I can reject the whole delivery. Get there and the customer says, actually, I've changed my mind, I don't want it. We can do that as well. On this ticket, we're going to do a complete delivery. So I click complete delivery. So immediately it's taken me into this screen to capture information. So we've turned comments and photographs and signature as mandatory. You can see these have got these red boxes on here. That's customizable per system. So you can decide which ones you want on here. I'm just going to put a comment in there saying left alt type. So as soon as I put a comment in there, that red box that is disappeared, I'm going to choose a photo. And I can put multiple photos on here if I wanted to by clicking the additional photos. So particularly for capturing information on damage or that kind of stuff, you can capture that in here. Recipient name I haven't made mandatory, but I'm going to put one in there anyway. And then they get the customer to sign that on the tablet device or whatever. If they make a mistake, you can reset that. but I'm just going to hit complete delivery on there. Happy days. So it's taken me back to my trip screen. You can see at the top, it said one of 4 has been completed. I'm still sitting in the to-do screen with 3 drops still available. But if I click on the done page, I can still see the one that I've just delivered. So if I need to go back to look for anything, I can do that. But it's just there to hand if you need it. If I now drop into delivery scheduling, go back into that drop, you can see that that now has been marked. Let me click off it in green to say that it's been delivered. And I can click on it and press the view button. Immediately I can see that it's now got a status of delivered. It's saying delivered in here. It's got all that information that we've just put in there real time. So it's got when it was delivered, we signed for it, any comments, any photos, copy of the signature. So the customer's getting that notification straight away, even though they signed for it, they've had that notification now to say their order has been delivered. So let's go do another one. Let's go back into ePOD. So just while I'm in the email, so I've now had a message saying that the next drop, so I haven't had to change a status or anything on one of my orders. I've just had a message because I've completed one of those deliveries. It's moved to the next drop. It's now sent a notification to that person that your next drop and your order is on its way. So let's go into one of these. I'm going to view that drop. So one point I would make, you don't have to deliver in sequence. Obviously, the next drop will always work on the next one that's showing as available. But for some reason, if there's a road closure or the driver has to reroute, you don't have to reschedule them. You can just go and deliver them in a different sequence. So again, I've got my Google map. I've got my what 3 words. If I wanted to look at those, so the driver can look at that. Obviously, he'll need the what 3 words app installed on the device that he's using. But I can look at that, and I can go and say, okay, this time I'm going to partially deliver this. So we've got to the site, and the customer's asked for a ton and then two 25 kilo bags. We get there, the customer actually only want 1 bag. So I can move that down to 1. I can reset it. If I make a mistake, I can remove it and set it to 0. But we're just going to reset them and say we're going to deliver 1 of those 25 kilo bags. It's making me put a reason for adjustment, so I can put that in there. And because I've said the customer wants the bag next week, it's then asking me, are these rejected goods still required at the bottom of this page? So if the customer does want them, like in this example he does, I'm going to tick that. And then what that will do in the background, and I'll show you this in a second, is that will put that 1 bag back on customer order. So it doesn't get lost. It'll amend the advice note down to what has been actually delivered, but because these are still required, it will put those on for delivery and to be rescheduled. If you don't tick that, it'll just amend the advice note and cancel off the balance. I'm going to confirm those changes. And again, it's going to want photographic evidence because we made that mandatory, so I'll choose that one. Again, sign it, customer signs it. So again, the status has moved to 2 of 4. That's still sitting done. It's gone red because we've made a change to it. So it's just alerting to us that change. If I go into my delivery schedule and into that, you can see that it's now gone red because it requires attention, because we've got that extra bag that we've got to go and look at. But again, I can drill down into this and view it. So I need to click on the advice note. So you can see it's saying rejected because they didn't take the full load, but it's got all that information in there, and it does tell me down here that they've taken 1 bag and 1 ton of information of cement. So if I go back into my delivery schedule, I'll just come out of that trip. If I go into the unscheduled items, you can see there's 1 item on here now where it's that 25 kilo bag, so that's waiting for me to reschedule that delivery.
So it's that information flow back, isn't it, as well?
Absolutely.
That is a big difference to just using bits of paper rather than somebody having to scribble something down and then remember it when they get back to the depot.
Yeah. So you can see it's sent me another trip because there's three drops on for this particular customer, but it's also sent me a delivery complete message saying that it's been delivered. And again, I can click on that Wemo link, which is exactly the same as the one that we've just looked at. Click on my advice note and you can see it there. Okay, I'm just going to switch this to mobile view to do my last last delivery. So just bear with me 1 second. So I'm now viewing it as it would appear on a mobile. So you can see it's now stacked those in the sequence there in the delivery scheduling, and I can use my finger, or in this instance I'm using the mouse, but I can move it up and down. I can scroll in and out by pinching. If I click view drop, it just gives me that information displayed in a more easier to read format than spread across the screen. And this time I'm going to reject the delivery. Again, it's making me rejection. I've got to put a reason in there. Actually, let's do some. So the damage, so it's free text, type in there what you want. I can put a photo of my damaged items in there. I don't have a damaged photo, but I could do. Collect a signature and hit reject delivery. So again, if I go back into delivery scheduling, you can see again that one's gone red because it's been rejected. So I could reschedule that, plan that for another day. But again, if I drill down on it and hit the view button, I get that Wemo page instantly saying this is what's happened. It was that one there. And it's rejected those. So in a nutshell, I think that's everything that I wanted to show on ePOD and Wemo. Obviously, it's quite a whistle-stop tour, but as Phil said, you can have it set up for a trial. You know, we're happy to do a demo, a more in-depth demo on delivery scheduling and things for people that want it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to hand back over to Phil.
So thanks, Nick. So we're making good time, but we're just about to come to questions. So we'll open it up in a second. How much does it cost? The standard price is £35 per month. It's licensed per vehicle. That includes the hosting of it, which is unfortunately difficult to work out costs on. I would say, have a chat with us. If you're interested in using it, I'm sure we can come to accommodation if you want to put all your vehicles on it. As you can see, there's a lot of features in it, and we're very keen for people to use it and give us feedback and get the benefits from having it. That said, I mean, I think we've sort of shown there's a lot to it. There's a lot to get your head around, particularly if you don't use delivery scheduling yet as well. That's why we're going to be giving everybody a sort of 2-month free trial. You can try it out in your test system, and then if you want to try it out in your live system, we can set that up for you as well. If you're interested in a trial, all you need to do is let us know. Probably the easiest way to do that is to create a service desk ticket saying I'm interested in an ePOD trial. We'll send you a form to fill in. There's a couple of bits and pieces we need to know.
Yeah, there's probably some questions that you might need to ask from your hardware or networking people in terms of port forwarding to allow ePOD to send you data back to the system, those types of things. But we've got a document that covers those. That's some forms to fill in. Once that's done, if you can give colours and logos, we'll get that all set up, and then the trial will start once it's all up and running. Yeah. And then we'll have a couple of review sessions during that trial to find out how you're getting on and take any feedback.
I suppose the other thing to say that it is an app, so it will work on a variety of devices. Doesn't matter whether it's Android or or Apple. And because it's a PWA, progressive web app, if you're delivering in an area where your network coverage is a little bit iffy, it will just poll, and then when it reconnects, it will just reconnect back up to the system. So it won't fall down if you're out of range. Okay. Right, we'll unmute you all now, and if you've got any questions, I don't know if we had any questions in the chat actually.
Let's have a quick look. I don't think we're in the chat. So I've stopped sharing, so please feel free to ask any questions. Yeah, that's fine. So I'll
Unmute all.
I don't know if there's an option to unmute all. Ask all. So you should have a request to unmute. Angus, you've got your hand in the air. Do you want to go first?
Hi there, everyone. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Just a couple of questions, really. There's a mix of a delivery scheduling question. Perhaps I could ask first. Is there any plans or accommodation in the scheduling for volume, which is sort of 50% of the job of planning the delivery?
In terms of
The volume on the lorry.
There isn't at the moment, but we were happy to take some comment on it and review if it's going to be necessary. I think it's something that's always been historically difficult to work out, because you never know. The system's always going to struggle to know whether I can put cement on top of plasterboard and those types of things. Yeah. So it's always a little difficult to get logic in that. I know there's a lot of people try, not had mixed results in doing that.
I mean, I know, Angus, some of the really big commercial ePOD type systems have got volumetrics. They say they have volumetrics, but sort of Nick said, I think for merchants, it's been just a very difficult thing to do. But yeah, we'll see where this goes. We'll see if hopefully people use it, and as with everything in Counteract, people use things, they give us feedback, and we look at what developments would push the product forward. So yeah.
I mean, I see that potentially that can be used at the till point to try and schedule and then inform a customer when we can deliver. At the moment, most of that is done after the customer's left, and then we have to communicate with them. So there's an advantage of that, but what you can't do is have an uneducated guess at the till point based on volume and weight. So it'd be difficult to use one without the other. But anyway, sorry, the other one, other couple of questions. On the handheld terminal capability and software, you've got the picking and packing updates. Can much of that actual work takes place outside with no access to sort of computer? Can any of that be updated on a mobile device?
So in terms of saying that it's been picked and loaded and those types of things, we're on our roadmap. There is a plan to look at picking and packing app that will accompany this. It's not there at the moment, but there are plans to.
It's a pretty obvious sort of next step, Angus, isn't it? It's sort of it sort of fits in well. We don't have a formal picking process really in Counteract at the moment. It's a reprint. It's paper based generally, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that would be the obvious area where we could probably take some paper out of the process. Yeah. But,
okay. And then, sorry to take so much time. Just one last question. I saw there was an option there for when you're delivering various things to take a photo, etc. Any plans or ideas about age-sensitive products to just confirm that the customer's over 18 if you're delivering sharps or adhesives or anything like that?
I think that's a really good option. Yeah. I think there's nothing in Counteract that lets you mark those at the moment, but it's certainly something that we've taken feedback on, and I think that will be something that we probably look to add as an enhancement request to control that.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ben, you've got your hand in the air, so if you can just unmute, then you should be able to ask your question.
Can you hear me okay?
We can indeed.
Perfect. Firstly, thanks for a really insightful presentation. It was a worthwhile hour. Question on the notification details to the customers. Everything comes through via email. Any plans to put that onto text message or WhatsApp?
So the ePOD notifications are changed, picked and loaded, and those types of things. They can be text message. You can sign
Okay.
up. You possibly missed that at the start. That you can sign to as a text message anywhere service, so you can have those as text message. The order acknowledgement and the delivery notifications, because they potentially have PDFs and things attached to them, they would still be email. But you can certainly have the, on route status, next drop, those types of things.
Okay, so the links can be embedded into a text message, and then it'll take you through to the same platform.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so the Wemo pick can be attached to that as well. So
Perfect. Thank you.
okay.
Thanks, Benjamin. Anybody else on the list?
Anyone else got any questions?
Just scroll down the list. I can do that. Sorry. Scroll down the list if there's anybody else. Anybody else with the right hand raised?
Nobody's raised their hands, but I'll ask everybody to unmute. So if you have got any questions, please feel free to shout up.
Nick,
Sure.
hello there, Nick. It's Stuart Poachins.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Good. Yeah, not bad at all. Thank you. What's your question?
I've got a few questions, but I'll start off at the beginning. So with the postcodes and the deliveries, is there a way of currently saying, okay, on the system, we've got 5 deliveries, we've put in the addresses, or the system's got the addresses, but it works out the route from the nearest to the furthest, or the furthest back in through postcodes? Or is that a manual job still from the person who works in the dispatch to say, we're going to start off at Mansfield and we need to come back to Leicester, so he works that out?
Yeah, it still needs that kind of transport manager's overview to know which routes to take. There's no kind of route planning, there's no tracking in there at the moment. But again, we're open to feedback once people have used it a bit more about areas where we want to expand it and look at, so that we wouldn't rule that out either, right? But I'm also not promising that it's going to be there in the next issue. So happy to take that feedback. But at the moment, it's still a manual job to schedule them in the sequence you want them to be delivered.
Okay. Next question I've got, where I saw that if the driver's out and he can sort of click the button to say part delivery, and does the customer still want to have the goods?
Mm-hmm.
If he says no, where does that stock go while it's still on the van? Does it show back in the branch's stock on the shelf, or is it still allocated to that customer's ticket? Because that would cause chaos if one of our delivery drivers went out first thing in the morning, delivered 100 products, but the customer said only want 50, changed it to 50, but if 50 then showed back at the branch and we were doing stock checks or stuff, that would cause chaos.
So I think if you say no, once it changes the ticket immediately and puts the stock back in. But I've confirmed that, and again, it's something that we could take feedback on, that there maybe needs to be a delay or put it into a holding area or something like that before it comes back. Because I can understand that's a good point.
Because really, what would need to happen there is once the driver comes back, i.e. the dispatch manager or the warehouse manager would confirm any tickets that we've had 50 back, and as long as we've had 50 back, it goes back on the shelf. He then does something on the system to say confirmed, which then only then releases the stock back from that ticket onto the shelf.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives you a good audit trail as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have that process.
Yeah.
And I think you probably also want to, if he's bringing 50 back, are they 50 good products or not good products? So we'll certainly take that as feedback and log some work around that going forward. But at the moment, it does go straight back in stock.
It goes straight back in stock. Next question I have as well. When we raise customer orders and currently we send everything down paper-wise to our sort of warehouse, again, there might be 10 products or 10 SKUs on the customer order, but on this particular order, the customer's only having 5 of those lines. I can't remember or didn't see anything on the bits you were showing where we can part deliver a full ticket. I can see where you confirmed it straight away. So all these tickets were supposed to be delivered and you press confirm. How would that work on the system where sort of the warehouse manager selected only 5 products and the other 5 were still on back order and going the week after?
So there's a couple of options on there, so that they could use the distribute facility on customer orders to split the customer order into two, so that then it creates two customer orders, one with the stuff you're delivering now, and one for the order that's being delivered next time. Or you can recall that customer order that Louise showed and change the lines to say leave those on customer order, and then only confirm that advice note with the 5 items that you're delivering on.
Okay, so how, and again, sorry to ask so many questions, but currently how it works with ourselves is a customer would phone up into our sales office, place an order, or say he wants something delivered. We would then create the customer order or send that customer order down to the printer by DB format to our warehouse.
Yep.
How would we now do that on the system? Was it a case of they go into the customer order and they then just change it to a format to say this is going to be delivered, it goes into a delivery schedule, and then somebody within transport goes, that needs to be delivered tomorrow, and they work the rest out?
So I don't think it would differ too much from your existing process. So the customer order goes down to the warehouse, they come back with that paperwork and say, I've only got these 5 items. What somebody then does is they'll change that customer order to an advice note for just those 5 items. So that process would stay the same. Those other 5 items would stay on the customer order, and you end up with 5 items left on the customer order, 5 items on an advice note. And it's the advice note that goes on to ePOD. So there are only 5 items on the advice note go onto the ePOD app. So they will only show the 5 items that are being delivered.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I think that's that's my questions asked.
Thank you so
answered.
much. Great stuff. Anybody else? Any more questions? Okay, well, if you think of any more questions, I can't see anybody with their hand in the air and nobody else has unmuted themselves. So if you do have any more questions, happy to give support a ring. Did somebody else speak then? Sorry. No. Yeah, so happy to have those questions. Email and support, or give us a ring. We can talk through those. Yeah, you guys got anything else? Perfect.
No.
Thank you so much. We're going to record this and put this video on the YouTube channel, so people can watch it at a later date and go back if they've got any questions. But thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, Wayne.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.